Hey everybody, thanks for dropping into this quick overview of the Digital Media and Journalism program at Laurier Brantford. We are thrilled to have you here. This is meant to be just a taste of what our program is. There's lots of other information you can find online. You can drop into our open houses later this fall. There are some scheduled Ask Me Anything sessions as well. So there's lots of other places you can get information. This is just one of them. So we hope this gives you a highlight and sort of answer some of the major questions you might have at this point. My name is Bruce Gillespie. I'm an associate professor here in the program, and I'm also the program coordinator. So I'm sort of the administrative head of our program. So I'm able to answer probably most, maybe not all of your questions about the program. So if you have any questions about what we do, our courses, anything like that, I'm happy to chat with you, and I'll provide some contact information at the end of the presentation. I'm thrilled to be joined today by one of our third-year students, Megan Grandy. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Megan is here with us today to talk about the student experience and what the program and our campus in Brantford feels like from the student side. So we're thrilled to have her on board because she's been a very active member of our program, but also campus for a long time now. So yeah, it's great to see you virtually. We're having one of those weird years like everybody else where we don't actually see people in person, we just see them online. So it's fun to see people's faces and not just emails all the time. So again, this is meant to just give you that brief highlighted overview of what our program is for those who are looking at it. We think there's lots to like, and certainly we will tell you all about it as we go through. So I'm going to share my screen because I do have some slides I just want to share with you so you can understand what we're talking about. There we go. So again, we were talking about the Digital Media and Journalism Honors BA that you get at Laurier Brantford. Today, we want to talk about our unique program structure because it's different than a lot of other programs you may be looking at. Talk about our sort of program goals and learning outcomes, what we hope and want you to be able to do by the time you graduate, which leads us into a quick discussion about all the crazy, amazing jobs that our alumni do because they do everything you can think of. And every time I hear from our alumni, it's exciting to hear what new kind of work they do. We'll talk about the courses you take in first year because we know that's always a big question for people. You know, what am I going to be doing that first year there? We'll talk a little bit about campus life, both in the sort of virtual sense, but also when we can get back there in person, what it looks like. And then again, we'll offer some information about how to keep in touch. So let's start off by talking about our program structure. So there's a couple cool things about our program. One, we are specifically focused to be a combination journalism and digital media program. So you may find media studies programs, you may find journalism programs in other places. We have a unique degree in that we want to teach you how to do both. So we want you to have all the skills and knowledge and sort of hands-on experience that journalism schools have, but also that theoretical knowledge about what journalism means and in a larger sort of social sense, but also that sort of media studies background as well. So we're really trying to meld skills and theory, and we've been doing this for a long time. And it's really fun. We think it's a really good skill set and background to have for all sorts of jobs later on, but it also gives you a really interesting student experience, we think. So the program is 4 years long. It's an honors BA in digital media and journalism. But at the same time, when you graduate with your degree, you also graduate with what we're calling an embedded certificate, which is a certificate in digital media production. This is brand new. We're super excited about it. As you'll see with the asterisk there, it's on its way to getting approved by Senate this fall, and then we can talk about it all we want, and it'll be really exciting. But the idea is that in addition to taking all the normal courses you would take in skills and theory, you're also taking a new suite of skills focused specifically on digital media production. So there's 2 in audio storytelling, there's 2 in video storytelling, there's 2 in photography and digital imaging, and then there's 2 related to graphic and web design. And then these combine to magically form a certificate at the end of your time with us, which means that for the same price of tuition, you're actually getting both the BA plus this great certificate that you might otherwise have to go to like college afterwards and get. Here we put them all in 4 years and you do them all at the same time. We think this is really good because it highlights for future employers all of those hands-on skills you get that sometimes people think you don't get in universities, that you have to go to a college to get. You don't. You get them here. We do them at the same time. You do them in the same places with the same teachers and in the same equipment. So it's really cool, and it's a really nice way to sort of get those sort of two credentials for one price and one set amount of time. And I think what we find really exciting is, in teaching these skills, they make for really exciting, engaged kind of classroom experiences, whether those are happening virtually like they are this year, or whether they're happening in person. One of the other nice things about our program is that we're super small. and we're purposely small. We sort of cap all our classes at 30 because that's how many people can fit into our Mac lab on campus. Because we always want to make sure we've got that student-teacher ratio that's nice and low. We want to be able to know our students. For me, that's one of the best parts about our program is that I know everybody. We're a really small campus as well, so anywhere you go, you see people you know, whether you're getting coffee or going to the library or whatnot. But this means that we develop really strong relationships with our students so that when someone calls me, as they do all the time, and says, I would love to pay a student to come and do some social media work for us or to take some photos for us. We're an animal shelter, we're a sports team, we're something else. Do you know someone who'd like that? Because we know our students really well, we can say, I know exactly who you need. So we can help sort of make those connections, which is really great. Megan, I know from working with you for 3 years now, you really like sort of the small, intimate size of our campus and our community as well. Can you say a little bit about it?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I absolutely love about the campus that actually really made it a final factor for me when choosing which university I wanted to go to. So when I heard that Laurier Brantford was small, but specifically the program was also small, I was like, wow, that's really awesome. And I think that it's really benefited me academically. As Bruce said, he's very close with a lot of his students. I'm able to just be like, hey, like I have a question about this assignment. Could you help me? I'm not just a number. I'm able to have conversations with my profs. I've also gotten to know my peers really, really well because it's been such a small program, which I think has really helped me when it comes to study groups and just getting that first year experience. So definitely it's such an asset, I think.
I agree. And sort of, the research literature calls this cohort-based learning, which is you come in with one class and you take most of your classes with those same groups. We call it sort of friendship-based learning because we think it sounds nicer. But the idea is that you never come in a first year and you're in a giant place and you don't know anybody. It's that you're with the same 30-odd people and you take 4 or 5 classes with them every year. So you know them from day one. You have friends from day one. So we think this works really well just for you socially, but we know it works really well for your academic development too, like Megan said. Great. Let's move on. So here's what we think we want to do with our program and what we want you to be able to do when you graduate. So first of all, you train to become a well-rounded digital media professional. So we want to make sure you have good skills, solid skills, employable skills in storytelling, writing, social media, videography, photography, digital imaging, audio storytelling, video story, all these things, right? So you may have a specialty, you may have something you're better at, you may have something you like doing better than others, great. We want to make sure you're well-rounded though. We know from our research that people going into traditional journalism jobs or indeed any kind of communications work, you tend to be the person in the office who people come to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So we want to make sure you've got all those skills, and that's why we spend so much time teaching you this range of skills. In addition to those skills, we always want you to have a sort of a good sort of digital media skill set, but also a curiosity about experimenting and adapting and being nimble. Because communications and journalism and digital media particularly, it's always changing. It's never the same thing. So, the software that we are using to create fun digital stories in Megan's class 2 or 3 years ago, we're probably not using anymore because it doesn't work or there's something better, or like it's been replaced by something else. So part of the great thing about a lot of our classes is this embedded idea of experimentation. We don't always come in saying we're experts, we've used this one piece of technology for 35 years. Like, no, there's something new that people are using in the field. We think you should learn how to use it too. So I've played with it over the summer. Now we're going to play with it together. And in this way, it mimics what people do in the real world when you don't have like $1 million budget to go to train someplace, right? It's working in groups to figure out how does this work? How can we take what this tool does really well and use it to our own purposes? So we love that idea of being nimble and experimental. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then finally, you have a solid grounding in the major theories about digital media, journalism, and communications. One of the sort of longstanding knocks against traditional journalism programs is that journalism grads can do journalism, but they don't know about the world, which is problematic when you're a journalist or anybody working in communications. So our program is specifically designed to make sure that you've got that great skill set, but that you also understand how that fits in the rest of the world. And so the role that journalism and digital communications plays in the world we live in, which is increasingly important. So these are all the things we want you to get by the time you leave. And you can see this, how our grads sort of do this by all the jobs they get. This is just a small sampling that I could fit on one slide of what our folks do. So we have people who work at very traditional journalism locations like CTV News, like Ryan Flanagan. We also have a whole bunch of grads who've gone on to create their own sort of one-stop media shops. So so Alex Violette owns Purple Bird Media in Guelph, and he does videography and audio storytelling and communications work as his sole proprietorship, which is really exciting. We also have tons of grads who work in a range of communication fields. So whether it's someone like Ryan Spiteri, who's at the Brant County Health Unit and has been leading all of their pandemic-related communications since March, or somebody like Shazlin Raman, who's working for the Friends of Canadian Broadcasting. They take all the skills of traditional journalism and apply them in a communication setting instead, whether that's to an internal population or an external audience, like something like the Health Unit. We also have folks working in a range of other kinds of communications fields. So we have people like Catherine Foss, who works for the NHL Players Association. We have people like, well, we have all sorts of folks actually working for sports teams. So we have a couple of students who work for Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, doing a lot of audience engagement and sort of social media stuff. So there's lots of really interesting work out there with great budgets to work with. And we also have folks like Megan Gilmore, who's a freelance writer, editor, and podcaster who works for all sorts of outlets across the country on a range of different projects. So this is just, again, a small sampling and a small slice of what our alumni do, but the range of what they do with the skills they have when they graduate from here is really amazing. We also have grads doing stuff we never expected. So working in high tech as product developers, who say that their skills as really good communicators and digital people means that they're well suited for high tech in a way that we would not have assumed necessarily. But they go on to do all sorts of cool stuff. And one of the best parts of my job is getting emails or calls from our alumni telling me about their new jobs, because it's always fascinating. Okay, so we'll pull back here from the alumni. We're going to put you back in school for a second. So there are 3 types of courses mostly you take as part of the DMJN program. We talk about them as skills courses, theory courses, and then these digital production courses. So in first year, this is what you take in terms of DMJN courses. So the first one is DMJN 101, which is news writing and reporting. This is a course I almost always teach, and it's my favorite course because I love teaching the basics and the foundations and the fundamentals to brand new students about what news writing and reporting is. We teach you how to do reporting. We teach you how to become a better writer. We teach you how to interview strangers and get information from them, which is always anxiety producing, but always fun, I think. 202 is cross-media storytelling, so it's more of a theoretical course about the different ways we tell stories and how narrative works. 211 is Introduction to Media Studies. This is partly an introduction to major theory about media studies in the last sort of 200 years, but it's also partly a history of, where do our current technologies come from? Like where do TVs come from? How has the way we've used TVs changed over the years? History of radio, history of newspapers. It's actually really interesting, and it's amazing to see how things change in a really short period of time. Whenever I teach this course, it's always like, wow, the internet has been around for such a short period of time, yet it's changed everything we've done, much in the same way that TV did in this first 15 years it came out. So there's a lot of interesting parallels there. And then there's 2 of these sort of digital production courses that we talk about that you take in first year as well. One is about audio storytelling, so gathering information on an audio basis with sound recorders and microphones, and learning how to do vocal presentations and sort of vocal performance on screen or off screen. How to interview people in audio, which would be really good these days because all we're doing is interviewing people by audio because we can't get close to them. And then the other course you take is photography and digital imaging, which is all about taking really good photographs, indoors, outdoors, people, of settings, action shots, figuring out lighting, and then how to sort of edit them with digital software. So it's a really fun mix, again, of those skills and theories and production courses. Megan, I know you've been through these courses before. What are your memories of first year?
I absolutely love DMJN 101. It was my favorite class. Also, Bruce taught it, so I loved it even more. But I went into it not really understanding like how to write a proper news story. I'd kind of played around with it in high school. It was something I was really interested in. But whenever I left the class, I understood how to write a proper news story, how to interview people properly, what not to do, what to do, maybe something I should change. So it was definitely a really good course for learning the foundations. Cross-media storytelling was a lot of fun too. There was a lot of super cool projects that we did. My favorite one was when we kind of had to tell a story through some sort of digital platform. I decided to make a blog. So that was really, really neat. And it was also something I could add to my portfolio. So those are some really cool classes that you get in first year.
Yeah, and again, I think that cross-media storytelling class is fun. It's one of the other ways students often tell stories is with digital storytelling software, like game software. It's called Twine. It's sort of like it's online choose your own adventure games, which I think is fascinating. We played with a little bit as well. So there's lots of fun stuff we do there. The other thing to note, as Megan said, the thing we quite like about news writing and reporting is that beyond teaching you the basics of what the skills are related to journalism is we spend a lot more time, I think, than probably anybody else at any university talking about how to become better writers on a technical level. So this class is often half DMJ folks and then half people taking it for fun as an elective. And what those people always come back and tell me is that, wow, that course is a lot of work, because it is. But also that they found they become better essay writers by taking this kind of course, because we actually assume that you don't know a whole lot about writing, and we start the basics. So if you can't figure out commas, if you've never been able to use a semicolon properly, if you need to become a clearer writer, we cover all that stuff. We spend a lot of time on it because clear writing and clear communication is at the heart of all digital communication, right? Especially online, where we need to be short and punchy. And I think in a lot of ways, that's not how most folks are trained to write. We're trained to write essays that are long and sort of involved and elaborate. And that kind of stuff doesn't work on tablets or phones. We want something sort of short and easy to understand by a wide range of audience. So the skills we teach are definitely related to journalism, but I think they have a really large application as well. So if you want to become a better writer, we will get you there. And we spend lots of time doing it. And I love talking about grammar, so it's great. You will like talking about grammar when we're done too. So those are the first year courses you take. They're DMJN courses. In your first year, you also take a bunch of other courses. So the first one is Introduction to Indigenous Studies. We're super, super proud and excited that in Brantford, we have a really strong Indigenous Studies department. And they have really strong connections to Six Nations of the Grand River, which is a little ways out of town, and it's the largest population of Indigenous folks living in one place anywhere in Canada. So it's a really unique area for all sorts of reasons. We have this course as part of our SPINE program and our requirements for first year, because when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission made their recommendations a few years ago, among the hundreds of recommendations they made, all of which were really good, the one that spoke to us directly was a call specifically to journalism and media schools, saying that we need to do a better job of teaching students and future communicators and journalists about Indigenous people, issues, and communities in order to address the sort of crummy job that current journalism does in writing about these things. So we took that on board really strongly. And so we've interpreted that and sort of adapted a bunch of our courses to actually include specifically more Indigenous content. And this is one of the ways we do that. The Indigenous Studies instructors are fantastic. These are fun, interesting, engaging courses that will make you think about the world in a completely different way than you're probably used to. And they're so great. We have lots of students who actually end up taking a minor in Indigenous Studies because of these courses, which we think is super exciting. The other three you see under here are all these BF courses. So everybody at the Brantford campus, whether you're in social work or DMJN or game design or criminology, everybody takes these core courses. All the departments that teach at Brantford have gotten together over the years and said, what do we think is important for students to know? What do we want them to be able to do by the end of first year? And so created this core common curriculum, which is really popular in sort of small liberal arts colleges in the States, but sort of less so in Canada for some reason. So everybody takes these. This is a way to meet people and lots of other programs. And so the 190 is a look at sort of major historical thinking and theories about the modern world, which sort of sets you up nicely for a lot of your theory courses to come. The other two, 290 and 299, these are what we call academic literacy courses. And one is focused on social sciences methods and one is focused on humanities methods. And these are to get you up to par with academic research. So maybe it's stuff you know how to do, maybe it's not. We want to make sure everybody's on that same level by the end of first year. So it's academic paper writing, academic research, learning how to find journal articles, learning about peer-reviewed research, learning how to present all this in an interesting, verifiable way that has lots of academic integrity to it. So these are really strong skills courses that everybody takes in first year, and they're a lot of fun, and they change a lot on a year-to-year basis, which is also cool. And then past all these required courses, you have one whole elective you can take of your own choice. There's lots of cool programming that runs on the Brantford campus, everything from Indigenous Studies to Youth and Children's Studies to criminology to community health. We have a bunch of recommendations on our website that what we think are good fits for first year, but you're welcome to take anything you like. You could take math and science courses if you really wanted to. Megan, I know you have a minor in history, I think, right? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I decided to take a minor in history mainly because I kind of wanted to see how the world has changed everywhere in the world. I think it was something that would really help my journalism degree personally. And also, Laurier offers some really awesome history courses. Currently, I'm taking a film on history course where we watch an older film once a week, and it's been so cool so far. So yeah, there's a lot of other electives you can take. A lot of my friends have decided to opt for the Indigenous minor, which is also such an asset. And we're so lucky to have an awesome Indigenous department here on the Laurier Brantford campus.
Absolutely. There's so many great courses there. The other course that students often tell me they've taken from the history program is a history of pirates. I see this in people's transcripts all the time. I'm like, this sounds great. I wish I could take this course. So you have to make sure you take that one before you're done, Megan. But yeah, so there's lots of stuff you can take. We think that some sort of fit better with DMJN than others. Again, we have a list on our website if you're looking for examples. And again, we're always welcome to talk to students about, what you think your elective could be, but it's up to you. And as you go through so first year is very structured. As you go into the upper years, you actually have many more electives to take. This is just to sort of make sure you're starting off with the right foot. So we want to tell you a little bit about campus life as well. Clearly, campus life looks different this particular year because there aren't many of us at campus, but a lot of the things we do are still happening online in virtual ways that, 6 or 7 months ago we thought might have been impossible. And today we're realizing it's actually really possible. We can still have meetings and club group meetings and chats and still do social stuff via Zoom. So again, we're being experimental and nimble, we're adapting. One of the things we love having on campus is our Mac lab. So on the second floor of the Odeon building, we have a dedicated swipe card access lab full of Mac computers, plus a green screen and some video equipment that is only being used by DMJ students at this point. So we have a lot of our classes in there, so it's a room you will get to know very well. And then when classes aren't happening, because it's swipe card accessed, it means that you can actually hang out there and work on your projects after hours because they're filled with the Adobe software that you would need to do all sorts of editing and whatnot. It's a great space. If we're ever looking for students on campus, we know where to find them because that's where they are, which is handy. The lab isn't open right now, but it will be in normal times as well. And we're working on getting it available even during the pandemic on a sort of a drop-in, socially distanced kind of basis as well. We have a growing inventory of equipment. So we teach you all these digital media skills and production courses. We don't expect that you're coming to campus with your own camera and tripod and video camera. We have all this stuff for you to rent out. And by rent out, we just mean sign out. There's no cost attached to it. All this stuff is covered by your tuition. So we have everything you can think of. So we have cameras and tripods and flashes and any kind of digital equipment you would need to do your work, we have. And then we always, every year sort of talk to students and faculty, but like, is there anything you want to play with that's different this year? So we have, a couple years ago, we were hoping to use it more this year, but we're not. We bought some really great streaming equipment so we can actually stream events happening on campus live. We did a couple of them before the pandemic. Because obviously it's a growing field. We know that lots of grads will need to do this in the jobs they go on to work on, especially in communications. You want to live stream an event to folks. Clearly that's very important in this remote virtual environment. So we have lots of streaming equipment that we bought and it's been really fun to play with. We're also really proud to have a podcast studio on campus. We have what's known as a creativity hub in the building called One Market at the heart of our campus. And it's a podcast studio that students can use or members of the community can use to work on personal projects or group projects or classwork. It's really cool. We're really also thrilled this year to have an inaugural podcaster in residence, Avery Moore-Kloss, who's a seasoned podcaster and broadcaster. And so she's been available to folks to consult on, and she's been giving workshops, but also private consultations to students about how to put podcasts together. Megan, now that I think about it, you were actually working on something like this before the pandemic, right? You were working with Megan a little bit. Avery, rather.
It was definitely so fun. We kind of discovered the podcast studio just walking through One Market. At the time, it wasn't really known or heard of. And so then we were like, wow, that's really, really awesome. And we decided to try and implement it into one of our projects. And it ended up turning into just this giant podcast that me and my year decided we wanted to try out. Of course, with COVID, there's been a bit of a pause. However, we were really, really excited, and we're hoping that maybe once the pandemic settles down a little bit, maybe we can try to see what we can do from there.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I mean, and again, this is exactly what we are like and what our students are like. We see our senior equipment, we're like, how could we use that? How could we play with this? That's exactly what we like to do, right? This industry is always changing, so we want and sort of develop our students and folks who are thinking this way. Like, what can I don't want to do the same old thing I've always done. What's something new I can do instead? The other thing I wanted to mention about our campus life is that although we are in a small town, we have lots of options for practicums. So students in third and fourth year can take a course that is essentially like an internship. These are paid opportunities where they spend essentially a semester at some sort of work placement, getting real world experience in digital media and journalism that they can then use as course credit, but also then put in their portfolio and resume. We have lots and lots of local people looking for students in DMJN with these kinds of skills to come and work for their charity or their animal shelter or their newspaper or all sorts of places. And I'm thrilled, although surprised, to say that we had more practicums this past summer during lockdown than ever before. We were worried that practicum sort of might dry up, but we had so many employers say, no, like we need to get this work done. We've got the money to pay someone. We would love to work remotely with a student. So as students working from their homes on all sorts of remote projects for all sorts of local groups, and even working for newspapers. So it was really exciting. We have a really Brantford, I think partly because we're still a relatively young campus and because we're right downtown, we have a really strong community of people who want us here. So we're not the kind of community where people are tired of seeing university students everywhere. They love seeing university students. They love knowing the kinds of skills that university students have to work at part-time jobs and get part-time experience. It's a really welcoming community that way. So I really like that. So again, we have lots of folks who are always looking for students to help out on projects, and most of them are paid, which is even better. Megan, maybe this is a good opportunity to talk briefly about your experience of, I know you're not from Brantford, so what did you think about Brantford and what do you like about being here?
Well, first of all, I absolutely love that Laurier Brantford is intertwined with the downtown core. It gives us lots of opportunities to go out and talk to people, pre-COVID, of course, but definitely it's given us lots of opportunities as students to kind of get into the community, get immersed, and do that sort of thing. It's also a very charming town. The architecture is beautiful, so great photo ops for projects, of course. But yeah, definitely I love downtown Brantford. I think it's so cool that we have the opportunity to kind of be down there, not just isolated on a campus. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a great little place if you've never seen it. Make sure you check out our virtual tour if you can't sort of get here in person. We also wanted, speaking of One Market and being nimble, we just want to put this up as an example of a way that you can learn more about our campus, but also think about the work we're doing. So in March, when everything got locked down, I called one of my colleagues in the history department and the youth and children's studies department, Tara Brookfield, and said, I think we need to do something. Like if we're all going to be away from campus for this long, we need some way to keep us all connected, because one of the great things that we all say about Brantford, because it's true, is that everybody knows each other and it's small. It's not just that we say we're a community of people, we really are. You know, the cleaners, the librarians, the person who makes your coffee. Students I've only ever seen in one class ever as an elective, I still recognize and know their names 4 years from now when I see them at the coffee shop. And we really didn't want to lose that, even though none of us were on campus. So we started this podcast based on equipment we had at home and the skill sets we already had. It's called One Market, and we named it after this building at the heart of our campus because we sort of wanted to remember that great space with great study spaces in the podcast studio. And the idea is that it keeps our community together and connected as we're all working and studying remotely. It's available online anywhere you find your podcasts, or you can download it at the One Market at simplecast.com. Every week in the spring, every 2 weeks now, we talk to staff and faculty and students about Originally, we're talking about like how you're doing during the pandemic. As that has felt a little more normalized, we talk about interesting research projects and hobbies and ideas people are thinking about. It's been a lot of fun. We're thrilled this fall to be incorporating it into one of our classes. So students in the 4th year DMJ and capstone class, which I'm teaching, I've started working on student segments to be featured on the One Market podcast. And we started releasing those in October. So it's become a fun teaching tool as well. So this is just another one of those examples of how we're trying to be adaptive and sort of nimble in a weird world, and use technology in a way that sort of builds community and keeps people engaged at an otherwise weird kind of time. Okay, so we just wanted to give you a high level overview, and that was it. So obviously you will have more questions about the program. You can find lots of information online. We've got some Ask Me Anything seminars coming up. We've got some virtual open houses coming up. So make sure you check out the recruitment website, which is probably where you found us. But if you have questions about the program, I'm always happy to talk to you. I'm happy to talk to you myself. I'm happy to put you in touch with our student ambassadors, whatever you like. The easiest way to reach me these days is by my email address, which is up there. If you have questions specifically about admissions and recruitment, I'm not the expert in those things. So choose Laurier at WLU is probably the better way to go there. But any one of us would be happy and thrilled to answer your questions. Megan, do you have any closing words before we sign off?
I guess if you choose Laurier, just enjoy your first year. There's so much the school offers, so many clubs, so many awesome classes you can take. It's definitely a great school. I love it here personally.
Megan, thank you for joining us today, and thank you folks for coming and taking a look. As I said, if you have questions, please let us know and we would be happy to talk to you about it. Otherwise, thanks for taking a look today, and we'll hopefully see you sometime soon.